I don't know whether to call this deck the Discount Power Rangers or the world's worst Exodia. In either case, we're talking about Earnescorrect Clarissa, the peace-centric brawler deck from the Lyrical Monasterio set. The deck is pretty simple. Get all 5 members of Earnescorrect on the board, then punish your opponent for having rearguards by gaining way too much value off of Clarissa's swing. The deck is surprisingly good at recuperating value, and it is of course good at beating decks down. Now, here's my deck list. We run 4 of every Earnescorrect card. There's no room not to in this deck. Here's the math for the chances of Ride Line skill hitting with max odds. Basically, if you're cutting any number of these pieces, your Ride Line quickly becomes an inconsistent mess. The best units are Earnescorrect member Evelyn, who get you another member on place for just a counterblast, and Earnescorrect member Caitlin, who can restand whenever your Vanguard hits. This combos with your Vanguard, who can get 3 attacks. Earnescorrect supporter Trilby can get easy numbers off of your Vanguard swing, and Earnescorrect supporter Leona is a recursion machine for the deck. Typically, the best target for a skill is Evelyn, who can turn Leona's 1-for-1 into a 1-for-2 on place. Here we have Aim to be the strongest idol. This card lets your Vanguard attack 3 units on board, so the deck's on-Vanguard hit theme isn't just a joke. It also gains 5k everywhere, despite it being searchable by your Vanguard. You still want to run 4, so you can use 1 on turn 4 and beyond. Now let's talk about our 3 open slots in the deck. Here I'm running 3 Friendship Hilda. This card might look familiar, but that's because it already exists. This is Ghost Chase on legs. This card lets you bounce a unit from field to hand when your opponent attacks you. This card is excellent as it lets you play around big threats of this deck, like Leonard, Orphis, and Barrow Magnus. This is because it lets you bounce their removal targets. It's also a great card as it lets you bounce Evelyn to get another unit on board next turn. Another option that's worth mentioning, but I'm not running, is Vibrant Symphony. It gives your Vanguard 30,000 power for a battle if you've already taken damage this turn. This card is fine for the deck. It helps a lot against decks that require you to drop 2 to guard, or against Roll. However, I think this card misses a lot of the flexibility offered by Hilda, and it's not live if you're already at 5 at start of turn. I can't really justify running this over Hilda. Let me walk you through what the goal turn looks like. You're calling all 4 members to board after you have Clarissa on board, Caitlin in front of Leona, and Evelyn in front of Trilby. Then play Aim to be the strongest idol. It buffs your board all around and gives your Vanguard the ability to swing at 3 targets. Now you're going to swing with Caitlin. Just Caitlin. Then you're going to swing with Clarissa at 3 target enemy units. If your opponent guards all 3, they're likely losing. If you get an attack off, draw that many cards and then restand Caitlin. Now you can swing for at least 28k with the Caitlin column, and for at least 33k with your Evelyn column. The important parts here are hitting for awkward numbers and drawing a bit with Clarissa. For Mulligans, it's pretty simple. Keep as many of the Earnescorrect members in hand as possible. Your Ride Line doesn't guarantee seeing them, so just dig for them during Mulligan. However, if you had to rate them in terms of priority to keep, I'd say that Evelyn and Catelyn rank the highest. Persona Rides are also a decent choice to keep. For Perfect Guards, Hilda, and your crit and front triggers, it's just matchup dependent. If you see a Bruce, you'll want to keep Hilda. If you see a Roll, it might be worth it to keep some triggers. If you see an Alistar player, it might be worth it to keep a Perfect Guard. You're always going to want to put back Aim to be the strongest idol. It's searchable, and priority number 1 is seeing your pieces. Because we run 4, we're likely to see another by turn 4, so it's not going to halt this deck to put some back during Mulligan. Matchups are pretty fun right now. This deck does really well into the other Lyrical decks. The Roll, for example, gets punished for having to call out rear guards every turn due to its main combo. Pushing players into a position where they can either guard their real guards or live is what this deck excels at. It's why this deck is very prominent for the Lyrical meta. The downside to this is the deck hard loses the deck that can retire rear guards or decks that don't need to immediately play rear guards. The deck struggles hard against Bruce as you can't use any of your skills against them. This is because they don't have to call rear guards till turn 4. Eugene can pop your rear guards in such a way as you can't recur them. Prison can drain your resources and still aggro you. One more thing about matchups. This deck hard drops off after the release of set 3. Bruce becomes a lot stronger. Greedon can limit his rear guards in play. Gravidia doesn't need to play rear guards. Orphis and Eugene get significantly stronger. Barrow Magnus gets tools to really hurt this deck. This deck is fantastic right now, but it's definitely a format-dependent deck. This deck hits relevant numbers and has a fairly consistent multi-attack. The deck is also live on turn 3. It's a solid 4 out of 5 on power for Clarissa. The deck does technically have a solid control core. Being able to hit 3 units for an attack is very punishing for some decks, as well as Friendship Hilda being able to bounce your units to stop an opponent's plays. I'll give it a very boosted 3 out of 5. The deck is relatively consistent. Your Ride Line helps you search pieces. Evelyn could search another piece, But to be honest, 5 specific cards is hard to see consistently, especially over multiple turns. A bit of bad luck can destroy this deck as nothing is guaranteed. It's capped out to 3 out of 5 on consistency for now. This is a brawler deck that is very good at brawling, but it doesn't really do much else. There are 27 unchangeable cards in this deck, so you can't make the deck list flex at all. 1 out of 5 for versatility. This deck has solid value. The ride line is fantastic to see more cards in hand. Evelyn gets a card on place. Leona can get you a unit back after they're retired on your opponent's turn. Clarissa is a potential draw 3. But a lot of this value is either dependent on chance or how your opponent plays. This makes me put value to a 3 out of 5. Overall, this is one of the most fun concepts for a brawler deck in Vanguard. This deck could benefit from 1 or 2 more Earnescorrect units to add some more variety to the deck. As it stands right now, the deck is just fine. It's a very solid anti-Lyrical Monasterio pick this format. I recommend it if you like straightforward.
Oh fuck, I can't believe you've done this.
Thanks for watching. Angel should be getting a deck profile next, so please subscribe for that. About 90% of our viewers aren't subscribed, and that's just unfortunate. Vanguard's got a lot of luck, but it doesn't have to come down to chance if you see our quality Vanguard content in future. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.